Pretty cool. Yeah. It also really leads us to the next question. Lots of people ask Niti, hey, is this the right time? And another thing they kind of attach to that is because the interest rates are relatively higher these days, they keep on asking, hey, is this actually the right time to invest? What do we do in these interest rates? Does it still work today? So that's a really burning question lots of people have these days, really, as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And and this is I wanna also kind of start by saying that this is a question of like, is this the right time to invest? And I think it's another way of asking the same question that you did, Aviv.
Sure.
Is it the right time to invest? And we've been hearing this question since we started
Oh
investing
my goodness, yes.
back in 2014, 2015. And people are like, wait, it's been 7, 8 years since the market crash. Like, is it a good time to invest? And what I tell people is, as an investor, the right question to ask is not, should I be investing right now? But the right question is, how should I be investing right now? When we started investing back in 2014, 2015, it was very hard to find lenders, right? When we first started, there were not these many lenders that we see now. So for our commercial mortgages that we got, long-term mortgages, we paid 7.5% interest rate back in 2014, 2015, because it was hard to find commercial financing back then. And so for us, high interest rates are not really, that, unheard of, because even we saw that in commercial financing in 2014, 2015. So that's one. But every market cycle has its challenges. So 2014, 2015, the biggest thing was finding funding was a very, very big challenge, right? It was easier to find deals. It was okay to find contractors, but financing was very difficult. Fast forward to, the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, right? It was, as we all know, supply chain got disrupted. Material prices went up a lot. And everything was more expensive. Rehab was more expensive. But then, because the interest rates were so low, you could manage that, and you can buy properties and all that. And financing was very easy to find in 2020, 2021. But it was very difficult to manage the rehab. But again, as an investor, you're always figuring out that one challenge that you need to overcome in every market. Every market cycle has its challenges, right? When you're doing your analysis for your deal, you're taking into account the fact that the interest rate is high. So as long as you're taking that into account, if a deal still works, it still works, right? In our community, people are closing on properties every week, multiple properties a week. And so, and this is all over the US, right? And so it's not about is it okay should I be investing right now because interest rates are high? No, of course you should be investing. But the question is, how should you deal with it, right? And what you need to be doing in your market to overcome that. And closely tied to that question is a question in the chat about what if the real estate market crashes, right? What's your opinion on the overall real estate market? And it's a great question, Randir. And the way you want to think about this is why we do buy and hold long-term investing.
Yes.
If you were flipping houses if you're flipping houses for like $1 million, is this the right time to do it? Maybe not.
Not as a newbie.
Not as a newbie. Like, if you're like a seasoned investor, sure, you could flip $1 million homes because you know a little bit more about what you're doing. But when it comes to buying the whole real estate, it's a lot more forgiving in that sense. I'll give you a quick example. So, one thing that we realize the power of buy and hold investing regardless of market cycles. So Palat bought a condo in Chicago in 2007. This was 6 months before the market crash. She bought it for $125,000, 2-bed, 1-bath condo. Right after the crash, in 6 months, the value of the property went from $125,000 to $85,000. Right, so it was a $40,000 dip in a matter of months.
It was crazy. We had just started dating, I think, or we had moved in together. I don't remember. But every day I was like, should I sell this property? And he kept telling me, no, just keep it. Just keep it. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is like the only thing I own, and it's dip. You don't have a lot of money when you're so young.
Yeah. But the good thing that property was, it was rented.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I always say buy cash flowing assets. And because it was rented out and we were making, $250, $300 each month, we kept that property, right? And then we kept that property for 12 years.
Yeah.
And in the 12 years, we sold it, I think, last year. And we made, in the 12 years, we made about $30,000 just in cash flow. We made another $30,000 in debt pay down, because remember, the debt was getting paid down all this time. And we made another 35 something thousand in appreciation, because now the property was worth 150, right? 155. And so because the property was cash flowing, we were able to make $100,000 in profit on the property, despite buying it at the worst time in history of real estate.
And it was also not the best asset to buy, right? It was a condo with high HOA fees, because I originally bought it to live in it. And I mean, there are a lot of things that we teach on, what kind of asset is the best asset to buy as a buy and hold rental. That was not one of them.
But even then, despite making all those mistakes and despite the timing issue, we still made money on that. So that's why real estate is a long-term game. So as long as you're buying cash flowing assets, that it's a long-term game.
What's going to determine our wealth trajectory isn't whether we buy assets at the right time or not. It's what's going to determine our wealth trajectory and what we leave behind for the next generation is how well we're able to hold on to our assets through market changes. That's what determines your cash flow is going to help you sustain that, right? That's what it's for. So this whole thing about, hey, is this the right time to invest? That is a way we think, because we don't come from wealthy families. The wealthy people do not think like that. They talk about building assets throughout different cycles.
Yeah, I was just going to say that same exact thing, Palak, but it's something you actually taught me, Niti. You said something really smart that I really liked a couple months back, and you mentioned, hey, it's not about timing, so it's not about your entry point to the market, but it's really all about your time in. So just breaking that word timing to time in. So it basically summarizes the whole thing, really. Cool. So since we're all about delegating the work out, not creating another job for ourselves and building the whole thing like a business, really, it leads to another concern that a lot of people have. How can I do this out of state? My area that I live in, it's so expensive here. You don't even know. How can I trust contractors? They're hard to find. Property managers. How can I find great tenants? So what's your take on that, really?
Yeah.
I just highlighted a comment from Trissa Summers too. She's asking the same question, Aviv. Thank you for bringing that up. She's saying, I'm in Phoenix area where it is cost prohibitive right now to begin the BRRRR method. Who are the key members of your team if I want to begin out of state, and how did you find them? We can go through the key members, but one thing I'll tell you that I tell everyone who wants to start out of state investing, you need at least one unbiased party on your team. Someone who doesn't benefit from how much renovation you do, whether you buy the property or that particular property or a different property, you need somebody like that on your team. And does it feel daunting at first? Sure. But once you figure it out, it's like riding a bicycle, right? And you're building a whole business from scratch. So don't worry if it feels like, hey, I have to build this foundation. It's going to take a few steps. It's going to take effort. It's an amazing, lucrative business. There's nothing wrong in learning all of these steps, building that foundation, taking the time, and then making it plug and play.
Absolutely. And, this question of the market that I live in is expensive. Absolutely invest out of state.
Yes.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, invest out of state. And that way, you can go to markets where it's lucrative, where the numbers make sense. Don't try to force numbers in a market where it doesn't work. That's not a great way to invest, because even if you find one deal, it'll be hard for you to scale in that market because the numbers just don't work. So one of the big things we talk about in our community is like, go out of state and figure out, right? Like, how do you figure out which market to invest in? There's a few things that we look for. Go over real quick. Is the population going up, right? Or going down in that market? You want the population to be increasing. Number two, is there enough diversity of employers in that market, right? If you're investing in just a town where there's only one university, that may not be the best place, because what happens if the university shuts down, like it happened in COVID, right? So you want to invest in a city where there's a lot of employers, different industries, from healthcare to universities to corporate employers, and all these different. So if there's diversity of employers, that's always a good thing. And if you want to look at these, couple of these factors, and then figuring out a specific neighborhood where the numbers work for BRRRR, right? You want to make sure the numbers work, that there's distressed properties that you can buy. So again, figuring out which market to invest in is a key step. And there's so many options, if you're investing on a state. You just got to figure out which one is the right one for you. And then build a team. To your question, Trissa, of like, how do you build a team? Your key members of your team are going to be a realtor, a lender who does both, hard money and short-term lending and long-term lending. You want a property management company. You want a contractor who's a very, very important part of your team. They're going to help you, rehab your properties. They'll be a trusted member of your team. And of course, there's other members, like you want to have an accountant, you want to have an attorney, you want to have, these different people who are going to support your business. But those are some of the key positions you want to look for. And, initially you want to, it's difficult for people who are starting to invest to hire people, right? Because most people in their 9-to-5 are not in charge of building teams. And so it's a skill that you'll need to acquire.
And even if you are in charge of building teams at your 9-to-5, you're not investing your retirement money. You're not trying to build your own wealth. It hits you it hurts a lot more when it's your own money, right? When you're doing it for yourself. So it's a whole different level. And you're also working with a different type of vendor than you are at your 9-to-5 if you build a team at your 9-to-5. So it's different, but you can learn it. It's I think going in it knowing that this is going to be different and that you have to be willing to learn, that alone helps you get realistically prepared to flex that muscle. And I always say, like, this is not something that you cannot learn. People aren't born with these skills. We can learn these skills. You can figure out how to find a good team, vet a good team, and keep them, retain them, right? Retaining good team members is also an art form that you can learn.
Absolutely. So Sudha says, how to get a hold of distressed properties as cash flow is hard in California. Again, Sudha, consider investing out of state, because California is not the best place to invest. And so, figure out what the right market. There's so many markets all over the US you can invest in. Figure out what the right market is for you. And
Svetlana, I'm going to show her comment as well. Similar question: what are good investment states? I'm in California. Let me just add something here in terms of living in places like California, Seattle, Boston, New York, all these expensive markets. Could you invest there? Sure. As a new investor, do you want to buy a property that is $500,000 and put everything that you're going to do, all your efforts towards that one asset, and learn from your mistakes towards that one asset? I would rather that you, as a new investor, going to a market where properties are $100K, $50K, $150K, somewhere around that price range, and learn everything that you need to learn there, because there is a learning curve to it, right? And I'd rather that you do that in properties that are not going to take up everything that you have, right? All the effort that you have, you can't even sleep at night at that point, right? Because you're sitting on this big asset and you don't know how to do it properly yet. So consider, if you're living in an expensive market, could you do it there? Sure. But don't start there, because it's going to take up everything you've got, and investing.
And it's not going to cash flow, right? Like, it's not going to cash flow. So again, it goes back to the only way you can see through market cycles in a low risk way by buying assets is by buying cash flowing assets. If you buy assets that don't cash flow, that's a recipe for disaster, because if the market crashes at that point, then you're in trouble, because you won't be able to sell it, and you're not cash flowing. It's burning a hole in your pocket. So I would not, recommend that. I would recommend, buying properties in the right cities, even if it's out of state, as long as it's the numbers work and it cash flows. And what states are good to invest in? There's so many, right?
There's so many good ones.
There's so many cities. Like if you're invested, there's places in Florida that you can invest in. There is, in Georgia and Pennsylvania, there's so many places. In the Midwest is a great market to invest in. And by the way,
And Cassie, go ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna give a shout out. Cassie and Alan, they just got a property in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
They're in our community. They were afraid of out of state investing.
Yeah.
And they just got their deal in Jacksonville, Florida. We've got a big group of people investing in Baltimore, Philadelphia, multiple cities in Ohio. There are some great areas that you can invest.
And a lot of people that join our community live in expensive states like California and New York, and that's a big part of what we focus on is investing out of state in what we teach, because there's so many skills as an investor that you need to learn, right? Building your team as well. There's 3 things that I always say you need to master if you want to build a real estate portfolio. No, I was just going to say there's 3 things that you want to really master as an investor, right? And those are 3 things we focus on in our community. Number 1, mastering deal analysis. You have to know how to analyze deals correctly, because without that, it's going to be very hard to scale. So you want to know how to analyze deals correctly. Number 2, you want to learn commercial financing, because conventional financing is not a way to scale. We bought a couple of properties in our personal name. That was not the right way to do it. You have to use commercial financing, and always buy properties under an LLC. Please, that's the right way to do it. So number 2, mastering commercial finance. And number 3 is building a team that's going to help you scale, especially if you're investing out of state. So those are 3 things that you want to focus on, and that's actually what we teach. So if you want to join our community, please do that. We have a lot of people that are doing exactly this, and it helps seeing other people doing the exact same thing, following the same method.
Yeah.
And so if you're an investor looking to scale, you need the right strategy, you need the right tactics, but you need the right community.
No matter what strategy you choose, no matter what direction you go, take risks, build wealth, learn how to understand your numbers well so you can go forward and build that wealth. And find your tribe. You need a tribe. You need people to back you up. These are cycles that we're breaking, right? You wouldn't be here if you came from money. None of us came from money. We're breaking generational cycles. You need a tribe, because we don't have that family that's going to help you answer these questions, that's going to tell you it's going to be okay when things are not okay, right? You're breaking a big generational cycle. Find that tribe and go out and give back to your community. Once you have that tribe, once you have people backing you up, now you're the role model. Go and give back and teach people in your community how to build wealth once you're done.
Thanks so much for doing this today, you guys. Really appreciate it. I think it was super helpful and people learned a lot. So thank you.